Let's start the podcast. Welcome to Off the Cliff Sports. I'm your host, Cliff Jacks. I was going to start this episode off talking about Kevin Durant, but we'll get to Kevin Durant later on in the episode. There was a lot of championships won this week, or this past weekend, I should say. The St. Louis Blues won the NHL title, the Stanley Cup. The Toronto Raptors won the NBA championship in 6 games over the Warriors. And we're going to begin with the Raptors dethroning the 2-time champs. Odd series. We know the Warriors were coming in without Kevin Durant, hoping to get him back. Toronto came out with a blaze of glory in Game 1. Kawhi Leonard has been Mr. Playoff from the first round to the second to a game-winning shot in the Eastern Conference semifinals, Game 7, that is. Kawhi was your MVP in the championship clinching Game 6. He didn't have a great game, though. The Warriors won the championship on the back of a team effort. How many NBA champs can say they won because of the whole team and not just one star? Don't get me wrong, Kawhi's been awesome in this playoffs. In the finals, he was awesome. He's had more 30-point games in the NBA playoffs than anybody. As of 1 year playoff run, I should say. Kawhi is what got Toronto to this point. But the rest of his supporting cast came to play in Game 6. Kyle Lowry came out with a blaze of glory, scored the first 11 points of the game. That start put everybody in a position where it was like, whoa, Toronto's starting off really well. Oh, did I mention this was the last NBA game to be played at Oracle? So, myself and a lot of others were thinking, okay, the fans are going to be absolutely crazy in this environment and the Warriors are going to feed off that energy. Well, it was an exciting game. This probably was one of the best games of the whole series. There was tragedy. Of course, Kevin Durant went out in Game 5. In Game 6, unfortunately, Klay Thompson hurt himself in the third quarter after he'd already scored a dirty 30. Klay was unfreaking believable. And on a fast break, he went up to dunk, came down awkwardly, and the finals ended at that point. Steph Curry did have an opportunity to hit that game-winning shot to certify himself as one of the baddest dudes in the game. But he shot a fadeaway 3 and missed. I personally didn't like the play call for that last shot of the game. Steph got open, so I guess the play actually worked, but I saw another play. I think they should have used Steph in that situation as the actual decoy and could have had a layup, maybe a dunk, because of course they were going to double him and take the ball out his hand. And Iguodala makes big shots. I'm just saying. I picked the Warriors in 5. I thought with a healthy Klay Thompson, even without Kevin Durant, I thought the Warriors could beat the Raptors in 5. I was wrong. I was wrong all the way around. Now Golden State got a lot of questions. Can they re-sign Klay? Can they re-sign Kevin? These injuries are a big deal too because Kevin Durant probably is not going to play basketball for the 2019-2020 season. He's probably going to miss that whole thing. And Klay Thompson, if he plays, is probably going to be late in the season, probably March of 2020. We'll see as time goes on. The finals are over. The NBA draft comes up next week. Free agent comes up a week or so after that. Toronto Raptors, congratulations on winning the NBA championship. We the North, as you guys say. I know Drake's having fun. I'm waiting on Drake to drop a song just because of this. Hope he doesn't make us wait too long. We're going to come back and talk about the rest of our show, guys, after a quick break. We definitely got to talk about Kevin Durant. When we come back, though, we're going to get into the NHL. Long time coming for the St. Louis Blues. NHL champs when we get back on Off the Cliff Sports. We in here. We're back on Off the Cliff Sports. Your host Cliff Jacks here. Thank you for listening in. Remember, at Cliff_sports is the Twitter handle. Off the Cliff_sports is the handle for Instagram. If you're an Apple person, you love your iPhone, your iPads, if you go to Apple Podcasts, you can search Off the Cliff Sports, and then you can subscribe to get all the episodes. The first championship of the week went to the St. Louis Blues. The Blues won their first NHL title in their 52-year history. Congratulations, St. Louis. They beat the Boston Bruins in a Game 7 where Boston had the home ice. I guess home ice didn't mean a lot to Boston. And I guess the St. Louis Blues were not intimidated by going on the road. Another fact is St. Louis was 8-0 on the road in the playoffs. So I think they played better away from home than they did at home. St. Louis was in last place in January during the NHL season. Last place. Somehow they made it to the playoffs and went on a hell of a run to win the NHL Stanley Cup Finals. Amazing season. A team that I picked to lose in the second round to my Dallas Stars, who Dallas dropped the ball, chance to win. In Dallas, Game 6, and they lost. And St. Louis went home and took care of business in Game 7. And then the Blues, the next series, they were down to San Jose, came back, made it to the Stanley Cup Finals, and then took care of business in Game 7. Congratulations, St. Louis, on your NHL title. By the way, I think St. Louis would be a perfect city to have an NBA team. An NBA team in St. Louis would be pretty cool, I think. So I've been hearing about expansion. St. Louis would be an awesome place. I always said that a hot goalie is very important in hockey. A shaky goalie could cost you as well. Boston did not change goalies throughout the finals here because they had trust and faith in their goalie. Unfortunately, he was up and down. If you watch the games, he was kind of shaky, unfortunately, and it cost them. One of the problems in Game 7, Boston was not attacking. Definitely the more physical and stronger team, I would say the Bruins were. It looks like they took the role as the weaker team because St. Louis played with aggression and they kept attacking over and over and over, and it looks like that helped them succeed. Well, they have Lord Stanley's trophy, so it definitely succeeded. I want to congratulate St. Louis on getting it done. Now the big part of the story is, hey, can they do it twice? Because expectations are going to go out the wazoo next week. So if you heard this episode early Saturday morning, the Blues will have a parade Saturday as well. So I hope they celebrate and have fun. NHL, we're going to talk a lot more NHL next October when it ramps back up. That was a good season, though. I watched more hockey this year than I have in a while, and it was pretty exciting. Some of the physical battles and some of the fights. Of course, fights in hockey is a big deal, and I always wonder, how do they get away with this? Playoff hockey has no fights, though, but it's really exciting. A lot more exciting than I knew when I was younger. Guys, after a short break, we're going to come back and we're going to get into Kevin Durant and did he make the right decision? I'll let you know what I think about it when we return on Off the Cliff Sports. Don't go anywhere. All right, before I get into the Kevin Durant saga, I want to reiterate what the Toronto Raptors did, the new NBA champs. As I said, Kawhi Leonard had a lot of help in Game 6. Kyle Lowry with his beginning of the game. The actual leading scorer for Toronto was Siakam, who had 26 points, a big 26 points. He also had 10 rebounds. And then you had Mr. Fred VanVleet, Wichita State Shockers along. He hit 5 out of 10 3-pointers, which was big 3-pointers. So those guys actually helped carry Kawhi to the title in Game 6. I mean, you never can deny what Kawhi brings to a team. He is a top 5 player, hands down. He has huge hands, which helps a lot. But Ibaka was in double figures. So this team altogether put a solid effort to help Kawhi get to this title. Of course, they pounded the boards, which was a benefit. And Coach Nurse and his boxing one defense once Klay went down, it definitely was a difference in the game. It hampered Steph Curry a lot. So I just wanted to make sure people understand I'm not just glazing over what Toronto did, but they were one of the best teams all year. I did pick them to get to the finals, so I guess for an everyday Cliff, I know a little bit, just like the pros, right? Anyway, let's talk about Kevin Durant and his valiant effort to come out and play in Game 5, to play for his teammates, to play for himself, the organization. It's a lot of talk about what really happened. A lot of people say they didn't think it was a calf sprain at first. They thought it was probably an Achilles at the beginning of this whole thing. Were the public told the truth by the organization? We probably never find out. What we do know is Kevin Durant came out and played in Game 5. He hit 11 points real quick in the first quarter, came back in the second quarter and tried to make an offensive move, and it was over. Ruptured Achilles. And so there goes the complaints on, hey, was this man really healthy? Did the team force him to play? Why did he play? Did he make the right decision? Did he make the wrong decision? I personally say, hey, at the end of the day, we all are men or women, and you have to stand up and make a decision for yourself. Of course, there's going to be people say, hey, we need you to play. But I'm sure there was also people like Kendrick Perkins said, he called KD and said, hey, if you're not healthy, don't get out there and play. And a veteran giving a younger player some wisdom about, hey, remember, you got your life dependent on this. This is what you do. So at the end of the day, Kevin Durant got to say he want to play or he won't. I hate when the analysts, the experts, as you say, always go back to you got to save the player from himself. If you're a grown man, in his case, and he decides he wants to do something, the organization can't tell me I can't do something. If the doctors cleared him to play and he said, yeah, I'm going out here and I'm playing. I don't like when they always say the organization needs to save you from yourself. The organization pays you, but they're not your owners, which we'll talk about that next year sometime, whether owners should be called owners or controlling partners or whatever you have it. We'll talk about that later. I think Kevin made this decision, as I told some other people, because he wants to change his image. Kevin Durant is looked at as a bad guy. One, because he plays on the Warriors. Two, because he went to a team that had just won 73 games and lost in the NBA Finals, which that same year came back from a 3-1 deficit against Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. And three, because Kevin Durant likes to respond on Twitter to people. He as most people would say, he has a little soft skin. So Kevin Durant played in game 5 because he wanted that image of himself to change. I think he was like, okay, it's time for people to just look at Kevin Durant as a superstar basketball player, not a guy that's negative or a guy that some people look at as a bad guy. Because he's not a bad guy. I mean, he responds on. I kind of like players that respond on Twitter and Instagram. It's kind of fun when a player lets you know, hey, I'm human too. Now, sometimes with the burner accounts and all that crap, he probably shouldn't have did. But I do like when he responds back and forth a little bit. Didn't like how he tried to make Chris Broussard look like he was lying, which Chris Broussard is one of the upstanding NBA analysts out there. So Kevin did it to change his image, if you ask me. Some other people says other things, but hey, if you think differently, hey, please reach out to me and let me know what you feel or what you think about it. At the end of the day, Kevin Durant injured himself trying to do what he wanted to do. Can't fault a man for that. You also are going to realize that even with that injury, there will be plenty of teams backing up the Brinks truck to drop off a load of cash to Kevin Durant. I don't know who it's going to be right now. I wanted to say the Knicks. I just don't know after this injury whether it's going to be the Knicks or not. The Clippers sound like an option. We'll see how it goes. I mean, if you ask me to put my money down, I'm going to put it with the Knicks. I just feel that he has a connection there that he wants to get involved with. I think it's something about New York that he likes. We'll see how that plays out. More NBA talk in a minute.
Congratulations. Kawhi, throughout the course of the series, you touched on the fact that a year ago you were not playing basketball. And you had to make your way to a new city with new teammates, but one thing that never seemed to waver was your poise and your confidence. What gives you that steely resolve?
Oh man, just life experiences. My teammates, they did a great job of, welcoming me with open arms. The management, so they just told me to come out and play basketball. And I'm a guy that just, try to not get too high or too low. And it worked out. It worked out.
You join, I know you make it very clear that you are about winning and not records nor anything else. But tonight, by winning your second MVP of the finals with a different team, you join select company, Kareem and LeBron James. As you let that sink in, what crosses your mind?
Man, last summer, man, was going through a lot. And, I had a great support system. I just kept working hard, and had my mind set on this goal right here. I came to a team, a new coach. That mindset was the same as mine, trying to get that Larry OB over there. And this is what I play basketball for. This is what I work out for all summer during the season. And I'm happy that my hard work paid off.
I know you're going to celebrate this, but I know Jurassic Park, 37 million people, the men behind you, you have such an important decision looming. How does a championship shape what you have in front of you?
I'm about to enjoy this with my teammates and coaches, and I'll think about that later.
Yes, you should. Congratulations.
That was Kawhi Leonard, courtesy of ESPN, after he received the MVP award of the finals. And as Doris was asking Kawhi, we're coming up on free agency, and Kawhi has to decide, am I going to stay and defend my title in Toronto, or is it time to saddle up and move on to the next location? Anybody and everybody would want Kawhi Leonard on their team, and they would make room to get Kawhi on their team. Where his destination should be. Really, at this point, he has all the cards in his favor. There's been rumors that he's purchasing a house in Toronto. I think he likes the smaller market more than people really think. And Toronto really is a mini New York City. So if you want to be in a big place, Toronto really is just like New York City, but it's just in another country. At first, I thought Kawhi was going to end up a Clipper, but right now I think Toronto is where he's going to be. I think he's going to re-up. I think he likes the players he's playing with because they all play hard. They all got a chip on their shoulder, and it's about winning. It's not about anything but winning. Looks like a good spot for him. Now, my sleeper pick is Kawhi Leonard going to Golden State and playing in that new arena in San Francisco alongside of Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and whomever else Golden State has. So if that happens somehow, you heard it here first, Kawhi to Golden State. Kyrie Irving ended his partnership with his agent, and he's signing with Roc Nation to represent him. Looks like Kyrie is going to end up a Brooklyn Net. All things, and there's been reports that he's really ready to sign with Brooklyn and not New York. And Boston's out of the picture. So where does that leave the Boston Celtics? I don't know. I think a lot of those young players are salted over about Boston, and when it's time for them to get out their contract, I see a lot of those young players leaving Boston. I don't know if their leadership is playing ball with the young guys. I think the young guys were a little upset with how they used Kyrie Irving, how they tried to bring Gordon Hayward back to the forefront. And I think Boston is going to be hurt by that over the long run. They have all these picks, these draft picks here and there this year, next year, the year after that, and the year after that. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a draft pick top five, most likely, are you really getting a game changing players? There's not a lot of Kawhi Leonards out there, the 15th pick in the draft. So we'll see how it plays out for the poor Boston Celtics. You have, of course, the AD drama going on. So he's not really a free agent, so it's drama. And then, of course, you have Kevin Durant, who's laying in the hospital right now, but he still has the money coming his way. I think KD's going to New York. I think Kyrie is going to Brooklyn. I think Kawhi's staying where he's at. I believe Klay Thompson is going to stay with Golden State so him and Steph Curry can dominate the shooting. I believe that he likes the fact that him and Steph can shoot teams out of buildings, and as long as they can get some front court help, they still are going to be one of those teams you got to beat in the West. LeBron James said he can beat them. He's done it before, but even if LeBron James get Anthony Davis, a lot of the experts, I like using that word, say that that team is the world champion waiting to happen. Even with AD, LeBron James needs shooters. They got to have two shooters. One shooter's not going to be able to get it done for him because LeBron is not a three-point shooter. Anthony Davis can hit some threes, but he's not a three-point shooter. So even those two together, you need 3 points. And guess who can't shoot threes? Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram are not 3-point shooters. Kyle Kuzma is not a 3-point shooter. So we'll see how their free agency plays out. And right now, with the leadership the leadership in LA, who really wants to play for the Lakers? The Lakers had beef with their own great Magic Johnson. It's chaos right now in the Lakers. You could actually play for the Clippers and play in the same arena. Just FYI. And Doc Rivers is in control of that organization. He's the coach and he controls things there. And their owner is filthy rich. The Clippers owner is filthy rich. So if that helps you to make your sway your decision one way or another. I think free agency is going to be exciting. I wish free agency actually was before the draft because then that'll put a lot more pressure on how the draft plays out. This draft, though, we know there's three players. Zion is going to go number one. John Moran, although he did just have a little surgery, most likely is going to go to Memphis. And I think after they draft John Moran, Memphis is going to try to move Michael Conley. Of course, number three is the Knicks pick, and I'm 100% sure that's going to be R.J. Barrett. I've told you guys multiple episodes. I wish they'll go ahead and play ball and Knicks trade that pick for AD so I can see R.J. Barrett and Zion play in New Orleans together. I bet you that would be some exciting stuff. Seeing them two on the NBA court together, I could just see them two bringing the excitement level to another place. But the longer it takes, I don't think it's going to happen with the draft being Thursday. Chances are RJ's going to get his wish and get to play for the Knicks. So I don't know how that's going to pan out. I think he's a star in the making, just like Zion Williams. I think RJ Barrett is a bad boy. I think he's going to be a 20 to 25 point scorer a game. And he has solid defense. I think we got to work a little bit. As some people say, his motor. I just think he probably have to work a little bit more on the rebounding things. But offense, I don't see a problem in the NBA. John Morant is who I'm worried about because his competition in college. In the tournament, he had some nice games, but I don't know if his competition in college is going to have him prepared for the NBA. Summer League will help us see a little bit of it, though. We'll see where he's at. After those three guys, it's kind of open. You got Culver, the boy from Texas Tech. He's pretty solid. I think he has a nice little mid-range game, which a lot of players in the NBA doesn't have. I like that game in him. You have the boy from Virginia. He's pretty solid as well. None of them are like coming off the board at you or anything. You also have Bo from Oregon. Probably 10 to 14 range where he's probably going to get drafted at. Who else you got here? You got a center from Texas. We'll see what happens to him. Don't know how much he's going to be able to accomplish. And let's see. Oh, you have the guy from Virginia coming out. I don't know why. The shooter. He was nice in college, but I don't think his game translate over until. And I'm not talking about DeAndre Hunter. He's a stud, but they have their other guard that played well in the tournament coming out as well. Don't know if that's a good decision by that young man, but Hey, I guess he has some people telling him you need to come out. Oh, we have Kobe White from North Carolina, Cam Reddish from Duke. Those guys are coming out. Most likely, both of them are top 10 picks. PJ Washington from Kentucky. Tyler Hero, freshman from Kentucky. Again, another one of those players who he may get picked high, but I think he's more of a Chandler Parsons. He can shoot a little bit, but I think he's going to end up getting paid some good money, but I don't know if he's worth it. One guy that I think may surprise some people, who I'm not real big on Gonzaga, but Brandon Clark, I kind of like that guy a little bit from Gonzaga. He's kind of has a nice little motor, so be nice to see where he gets drafted at. The draft is going to come and go because we know where those top three players are going to go, and then everybody else will kind of fall in line. Your hope, if you don't get a starter out the lottery, you just want to hope you get a sixth, seventh man. If you draft somebody top 10 and they're not starting or they're not in your top 7 rotation, that sucks, bottom line. Off the Cliff Sports is with you. We're going to take a break, and of course, we'll come right back. Have a few quick takes for you guys. We'll dabble with a little NBA, NFL action, a few things from there as well. Of course, top of the cliff segment, a must, and we're going to get you guys out of here. Be back with you in a moment. Back with you on Off the Cliff Sports. Just want to give a quick shout out to a few people. Overtime Heroics on Twitter. Great place to follow. Check them out. Also, you have Last Word on Basketball. They're on Twitter as well. A lot of basketball knowledge following that group. Check those two people out. Overtime Heroics and Last Word on Basketball. Some real good guys there. Follow them on Twitter. Probably like their content as well. On to the NFL. A lot of OTAs and all that just happened over the last week and a half. You have Russell Wilson up in Seattle saying he's loving what he sees from DK Metcalf. I really think DK Metcalf is going to be a steal out of the wide receivers. He got picked up in the second round. A lot of people picked in front of him, and I think it's going to be a lot of teams say, darn it, why did we miss on that? He was injured last year, so didn't play a full college season. He came in with this physique out of this world. He has speed, straight line speed, that is. Of course, he needs to work on some route running a little bit, but most college receivers have to get better at route running when they get to the league. You don't have a lot of people that came out like Larry Fitzgerald. When he came out of college, it's like he had that it. But I think Metcalf is going to be a steal when it comes to rookies next year. In some somber news, the Denver Broncos, my favorite team, their owner died at the age of 75. He was facing a battle, an uphill battle with a disease, and it actually came to take over him at the age of 75. He did win a few championships along the way, 3 to be exact. John Elway with 2 as quarterback, and Super Bowl 50 when we beat the Carolina Panthers. So, to his family, big ups. He'll definitely be missed in that Denver organization. You also had news of Carson Wentz, talked about last year getting that big bag from Philadelphia, and now there's talk of the Dallas Cowboys giving their quarterback, Dak Prescott, around $34 million a year. That $34 million a year, if they pay Dak that money, I think it's going to hurt them in the long run. Whether he's worth it or not, I don't know, but it's going to be hard to sign some other key players if you got that much money tied up in your quarterback. You have Jay Gruden in Washington saying Dwayne Haskins is looking really good. He is going to get to compete for that starting position in Washington. You even have the New York Giants saying their quarterback, Daniel Jones, who got picked entirely too high. They even say he looks good enough to compete with Eli Manning. They got a mess going on in New York, and unfortunately, the person that's going to suffer from it is Saquon Barkley. 8-man boxes for him in his near future. We did find out that the Oakland Raiders is going to be on Hard Knocks. They're going to feature Oakland, so that means they're going to feature AB and John Gruden. You're going to see David Carr, and you're going to see all the defensive ends that got to try to replace one of the best defensive ends in the game. I think this Raiders Hard Knock thing is going to be real interesting. John Gruden is a character. He's been on TV so much. I mean, he definitely knows how to play to the crowd. And AB, I mean, he's AB, flashy. So he'll have a lot to show us. His little son is awesome too. I mean, that's one of the best things I love about him on Instagram. He has his son on there and doing things, and that part is real cool. So Raiders on Hard Knock will be interesting. Now, is that going to help them with the season? That's another story. Most teams that hit Hard Knocks, they end up having hard seasons. Couple quick takes for you guys this week. The College World Series started in baseball in Omaha. My college team I love dearly, those Arkansas Razorbacks, have a return trip. You also have the Mississippi State Bulldogs, the Vanderbilt Commodores are also making trips, and the Auburn Tigers. Auburn is having a heck of a year. College basketball had a good year. They're having a good year here in baseball. Their college is on the ups. Oh, there are teams not in the SEC there as well. I'm sorry. Florida State is at the College World Series. The Michigan Wolverines, who upset the number one team in college, the UCLA Bruins, last weekend, they're also at the College World Series. You also have the Texas Tech Red Raiders. And I forgot who the 8th team is. I'm sorry that I forgot who that 8th team is that's at the College World Series. I should get that info for you guys because it's probably very important. Next hot take for you. David Ortiz, former Boston Red Sox great, was shot in the Dominican Republic last week. That's some scary news there. The Boston Red Sox actually sent a plane so David Ortiz can come back to the States. Now, I guess they didn't have to send a plane, but they wanted to get one of their greats back to the States, and hopefully he can get the care he needs. I know he was out of surgery and in stable condition last I heard. I also heard there were 6 people arrested based on info from Yahoo Sports. 6 people were arrested in connection with the shooting, and one of the guys say they were paid $7,800. That's crazy. $7,800 to go out and take out David Ortiz. Man, scary over there in the DR. I don't think I'm gonna be visiting anytime soon. If 7,800 can get him, hell, I guess $10 probably can get me. So I'll stay over here in the US of A. We have enough problems of our own. Guys, we're going to get the best episode of the show, Top of the Cliff, when we come back, and the quote of the day. Off the Cliff Sports. Don't go anywhere. All right, we're going to get into Top of the Cliff. And this week on Top of the Cliff, I want to invite all the critics and all the people that said the U.S. national women's soccer team disrespected Thailand by scoring 13 goals in their match Tuesday. I want to invite all those people to the top of the cliff. You normally don't see 13 goals in a soccer game. That's true. You also don't normally see a team get dominated the way Thailand got dominated. But let's think about it. There's lots of sports where things happen and you gotta just go with the punches. There's a team in college football got beat 100-0. You have the Toronto Raptors, who just won NBA titles, gave up 80 points to Kobe Bryant one year. Things happen. Two things here. The U.S. women are playing to win the World Cup. You have to go out there and beat your opponent because you never want to leave an opportunity for that opponent to beat you. Secondly, in soccer, the amount of goals you score matter, especially in pool play, which is what they're doing right now. If it comes down to the amount of goals scored, or points if you want to call it that, you might need those points or those goals to count. So that 13 puts the U.S. women in a no-doubt situation that they most likely are going to win when it comes to points. All the people out there who are complaining because this team went out there and they played their best and they dominated, please join me on the top of the cliff. As I always say, what you do when you come to the top of the cliff, that's up to you. But I want all the critics and all the fans who felt that the U.S. disrespected that team from Thailand, please join us. Thailand had to qualify for this tournament just like the U.S. did. So that means they're professionals. They just didn't have their best game. Or the USA women are just pretty good. Ladies, congratulations on what you're doing. Go USA and bring home that World Cup. All you guys that had to join me on the top of the cliff, please make your decision. Thank you for being on top of the cliff this week. Ladies, gents, it's time for our quote of the day, and we're going to get you out of here. Off the Cliff Sports. Thank you for being here. We'll be right back. The quote of the day this week is going to come from Lionel Messi, soccer player. There are more important things in life than winning or losing a game. Lionel Messi's quote is, there are more important things in life than winning and losing a game. This definitely came to play in the NBA Finals for players like Steph Curry and Draymond Green. They lost some of their brethren. Klay Thompson went out, torn ACL. Kevin Durant went out, ruptured Achilles. And when you've had to ride with guys for 2-3 years, you've built a brotherhood. Things like this happen. It makes you look at the game you're playing and say, wow, it's just a game. These people's lives are affected. It's been a great show, guys, ladies and gents. Appreciate all the people that listen in. Please tell your coworkers, family, and friends to listen. See if they like it. Follow me on podbean.com, youtube.com, Apple Podcasts. The site's there if you search Off the Cliff Sports. Tweet me, Instagram me. Whatever you can do, let's make this thing a culture. Thank you for listening to Off the Cliff Sports. I'm your host, Cliff Jacks. Peace.